All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 1st, 2022 meeting of the Town of Concord Historic Districts Commission. My name is Peter Nobley. I'm the Vice Chair of the HDC, and I'll be chairing this in the absence of the chair, who's not here this evening. We have one new application to review this evening, and then we have some other business, pardon me, at the end of the meeting. Now I have to read my little spiel. We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comments on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Our host will mute microphones of those not speaking to preserve bandwidth and may need to turn off video, but if you would please remember to mute yourself, that would be helpful if you're not speaking. I'll call on each commissioner for comments. Once a presentation is through, then we'll open the meeting for public comment. Once there's no more public comment, I will ask for a motion to either from the commission to continue the application, approve, not approve, or approve with conditions. We'll second it and do a roll call vote. Once we've acted, the applicant and team are free to leave the meeting. So let me do a quick roll call of commission members this evening. Kate
Here.
is present. Dennis, yeah. Dennis, Abigail, don't see Abby. Catherine is here. Hi, Catherine. Henry.
Here.
And I'm here. And Paul.
Yes, I seem to be here, yes.
Paul is also apparently here. All right, so I think, let's see, voting members will be the full members, which tonight I think are just Paul and me. And then why don't we also include Henry, Catherine, and Dennis? Is it okay to leave you out, Kate?
Yes, it's fine.
I'm leaving Kate out. Okay, that's our voting for tonight. So thank you all, and on to the meeting. So our new public hearing is for 583 Main Street, also known as the Dovecote or Hosmer Cottage. It's in the Main Street district, and the applicant is proposing to demolish the rear wall of the house, construct an addition, and install new windows. And Jonathan Rushmore, I think, is here. Welcome. And I don't know if commission members have had a chance to look at the material on the website, but there's a nice set of drawings to look through. And I think, Jonathan, if you wouldn't mind walking us through what you're proposing to do, that would be great. So again, welcome. And is it possible to put up the presentation? Sorry, Jonathan.
I also have it ready if you want me to share it, but as you wish.
Whichever, what do you think? Is it okay to tell Ann to kind of go to the next slide sort of thing?
That's fine too. I also have a full VR of this project. So if there's any questions, we can fly around it as well. Sometimes the 3D tells a lot more than the 2D.
Yes.
Qualitatively. So I'm prepared to show you that as well. Jonathan Rushmore, I'm the owner, 586 Main Street. I'm supposed to give you my name and my street number and all that
serial
stuff.
Number, tax ID number.
Yeah. I'm an architect by trade. I have done a good amount of historic work. It's one of the reasons that we bought the house. I'm a lover of old houses. I grew up in old houses. So we see ourselves very much as a steward of this house and its history. I think I'd like to just break into a little bit of the history of the house, because I think it's important just to establish its historic value. Dovecote Cottage, it's got some significance with some writings of Concord, and it also is, the Hosmer Cottage, which the Hosmers, lived next door, and then they built this house. The original house is inside this house. You can't even see it. It's unrecognizable. They've built a porch on it. They've mansarded the roof. They put an addition, and they put an addition in the back. And it's been a series of small adits to get to where we are. But this is a really good photo. And the reason why I like this photo is it shows that the house is trying to form some symmetry. But if you look very hard, there's actually no symmetry. But the idea of the house, I think, and as people have piecemeal built it, was to try to organize what originally was an A-frame house and a post and beam house. When we first bought the house, we did a little bit of interior renovations. We found that the old roof is still inside the house with all the shingles on it, which was very much a surprise to us. And so, walking through the second floor, if you knock down a wall, there's still a roof behind there at the other side of that mansard. So that being said, it is an Alcott house, and there's a lot of history and cultural history to it. And one of the reasons that there's two reasons why we're doing this work. One is that the back of the house is in disrepair. The back facade is the north face. It isn't drained well. The tar paper is holding in more moisture behind the cladding than it is kind of keeping it out of the house. And as a result, there is a need to do some repair. If you go to the next slide, please, Anne. Thank you. Not a great photo, but if you note that the mansard on this side does not go all the way to the back of the house, it stops halfway. Again, this is that piecemeal construction. So right next to that side entry above that, that's the end of the mansard. And that roof back there is a shed roof, the very low slope. And we're also having some trouble. And I think the previous owners, and probably there's evidence that ever since this thing was built in this way, there's been water intrusion, and it's been very hard to control some of that back there, particularly with the ice dam. So it's with those two things, and with the kind of the history and the character of the house, that we decided to design it in the way we did. If we can go to the next slide.
That may be the plan. Is that the set of plans?
Yeah. So, all right, this is the story of the house right here. So up on top is the house from the rear. And you can see that little kind of it's a square shape on the bottom, and it's like an L shape on the top. And we've got that little shed that is it really doesn't fit in the house stylistically. I mean, in the 1870s, when they mass introduced the mansard, as this has, and as this tried to do, it's almost like they went to three sides of the house and they ran out of money. And simply what we're doing is in a way we're completing the house to the form that we think a traditional mansard of the renovated style of the 1870s would have wanted to be. There is some corrections, or not corrections, but when I work in historic architecture, sometimes the roof line is very important. And so what we did is the front of the house is kind of a Frankenstein. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, you can see like a house that has a mansard on the top of it, right? And it doesn't look like it contains the full character of the house. And the mansard is really the character that dominates this house. So we raised that roof to meet the new mansard. And in fact, that's just to meet the existing mansard roof line. We're just continuing that around the house and completing it. And I think it restores kind of the nobility of the way the house wanted to be. The rest of the addition, I think, tries to maintain the same datums, the same wood styles, the same clapboard styles, the same trim treatment, and all of the woods the windows that are coming through the mansards are in the exact same dimensions and the exact same style, with one kind of, the middle window of the back is reflecting the condition in the front. But again, this is the rear part of the house. It's not visible really. You can see it from the train if you peek over your seat. But really, I really wanted to pay respect to the house on all sides, and it's like the back was forgotten about. It's like a Wild West house where the front facade is got this dressed up character, and in the back, it just doesn't follow through. I might want to pause here for any questions on this, on the whole idea of the renovation. One, the need, and the second, the kind of respecting of the dominant style of the house. If anybody has any questions.
I think, Jonathan, it's okay to go through the rest of the.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I know, our charge is really to look at the exterior, so you don't have to really go through the floor plans in detail, but maybe just give us an overview
Sure.
of the project. And I don't know if there's a landscape drawing.
There
in the
is
set.
I did take on the left hand side. I basically demarked out some of the landscape. There's one tree that will be affected by this. It's in the back. We have a crab apple that has a it's very close to the house. We're constantly cutting it back. Ants are actually finding their way, jumping off the crab apple into our house. And so it's also got some disease on it. But what my brother actually he owns an apple orchard. And I've asked him to help to work with me to graft the tree, and so we can replant it on the site. And one of the reasons that's there's some myth and fact associated with this house. This is where Louisa May Alcott, one of her first houses, and apparently she was a lover of apples, and she may have planted apples and pears on the property. So I'm reticent to destroy any trees. So we're going to try to graft it and replant it, and it'll take 20 years or 30 years to come back, but that lineage won't be lost. There's no evidence that she had anything to do with this apple tree, and it's not old enough to be from her time. But my wife and I were very much preservers. We're not destroyers, so that's just something that we're planning to do. And I think I noted that on the plans as well.
Okay.
Other than that, there are no trees affected. And there's no tree lines affected. We do have a big oak in the back that we're still going to be just to the edges of. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think I just to cut to the chase, I think we're going to want to do a site visit no matter what before the next meeting. So I think maybe I see you've sent a nice complete set of drawings. I think use whichever drawings you think might be most relevant. I'm not sure if the elevation drawings came through. I looked at the set and it looks like there's lines dropped out or something.
No, I have. I think it's because it was a scan set. I have a set on my computer that should be able to.
Yeah.
So they're there. It's just very, very light. So I can share that.
Would you mind? Would you mind,
Yeah, sure.
Ann, letting Jonathan share his screen there for the drawings? I think we should look at the elevations especially.
Just
Okay.
Thank you, Ann.
All right. I'm going to share
Thanks,
my
Jonathan.
screen. Yeah, for sure. This is really
In
my
person,
pleasure.
if we were in person, it would be like musical chairs and we'd be putting up an easel and I don't know, we'd be doing something more traditional.
All right. So I'm hoping you can see this a little bit better.
Yep.
You can see the gray lines probably dropped out. When we do historic stuff, I try to really demarcate what is going to remain existing and what we're going to change.
So maybe just start with the street view. What do we see on Main Street first?
So on the street view, what you'd see on Main Street as an add alternate, we're to the contractor, we're going to replace all these windows. As you probably are aware, all these historic houses they've settled, they've creaked, they've leaned, and the windows are pretty leaky and they're pretty old. We have attached the specs for the windows that actually were approved in a previous renovation, which is this outbuilding that was done by the previous architect. Currently, these are 6/6 windows, and we're returning them to the 2/2. The 6/6 was a renovation done in the 1960s, kind of a little ad hoc of just this front porch. And they did not respect the historic nature of the house, in my opinion, and in my, maybe not my opinion, my professional opinion. And so we're looking to replace those to the 2/2s. And if I may add to that, we have archival evidence of the old facade of the house that shows that before the porch went up, it was 2/2. So I've included these photos here to try to like give you guys an idea. You can almost see it on the side here, but it's definitely not a 6/6. But this is the old porch of the house before it was filled in. I'm going to go back to this. So the front facade, you're not going to see much of a change. This facade is the west elevation, but from the street, this kind of that addition that's over on this side blocks most of the renovation, if not all of it. So you won't really see too much of the finished product on the outside of the street. And certainly it'll be the same style. So in my professional opinion, again, it won't affect the streetscape. On the other side of the house, that shed roof is back here. And so you are going to see a significant kind of change in construction here. But again, it's a very oblique to the street. And when you come out and do the site visit, we can look and point. But the idea is if we maintain the same roof lines and the same character of the house, hopefully it just strengthens its historic quality. The sections are a little bit, I could get into a little bit more fine detail, but we have partnered with an engineer who does a lot of historic work. I've worked with him on this house, on other parts of the house. We've actually done some structural remediation to the inside of the house. When we bought the house, we knew it had a whole bunch of problems that I needed to fix, and I wasn't afraid of those problems. And so when I said there's a roof inside the house, there literally is a roof inside the house. That's this roof here and this roof here. And that does maintain a structural load down to a previous exterior wall. And so we're being very careful about how we carry loads throughout the house. And it's something that I have had a lot of attention in my professional work on this, and partnering with an engineer that really knows this house has been very important to me. Again, the back addition, I cut the section through the part of the building that we're doing the most building, but really the spirit of the back of the house is really an addition that's only about 10 feet back. We're only extending that house 10 feet back. One to give the roof line enough room to return back to the top of the upper hip. And the other one is, at a certain point, renovations only make a business sense when you do enough to change the square footage. So we're doing a major repair here and at the same time bumping out. I could get a little bit into the wall sections. Again, I don't know if you usually see this much of a set when you have a historic preservation, but I figured this is a very shrink wrapped. We're looking to be as energy efficient as possible, and still use the original detailing of the exterior facade. And if there's questions on that, I'm happy to get into it, but I'm not sure if everybody really get into it. But I've included these back the schedules. This is a survey basically of the existing windows, and this is what we're going to build off the mansard. And I think the other thing is that inside the house, we also have some historic moldings that will be going back on. We're maintaining those, or if we need to get new, I've already worked with Anderson McQuaid to establish the pattern that's closest to what's in the house. It's very much a Frankenstein of high in style 1870s interior architecture and some older architecture, depending on which part of the house you're in. This is the L, or the backwards L here, the backwards 7 that we're building out with the existing framing. And again, the roof within the roof, this takes a lot of attention and design to make sure that we maintain the structural path of the house that exists and the wind loading. And that's all been taken really a fine eye on.
Could we pause on that drawing just for a sec? So I just want to make sure everybody understands. So the bottom 3 diagrams show existing and then sort of like a see-through view, and then the new framing. And so basically the mansard is coming up. How high is the new peak? Is it 5 or 6 feet higher than the current?
No, it's actually
Not that much.
not that much. Let me see if I can establish that. Here's the existing house, and you can see that I've been very, very careful to maintain that the highest point of the house is just about maintains as the highest point. This house doesn't get any higher. We do have this, and this is like a classic mansard detail at the top here, where it hips again. And so I've introduced that as a way to shed water off the top. I did not want this house to be higher. The whole charm of this house is that it's a compact, like almost like a jewel, right? That if it went off in every different direction, it would start to lose its character. So I'm glad you brought that up, Peter. We've been very careful to hold the elevation of the roof as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I didn't
sure.
mean to interrupt you there.
No, I think that that's the end of the set, and the treat that I have for you guys here is that sometimes it's hard to understand what it looks like in 3 dimensions, and so the character of the house is really the drawings show a division line, right, of what is new and what is old, and I think the kind of thing that I would challenge here is that. If you were to come to this house 5 years from now, when the renovation is finished, it's going to be very difficult for you to find the division of the new to the old. And that's something very important in historic architecture. If you can't maintain the structure exactly as is, how can you make it so it still seems like it always was that way? And that's one of taking all of the cues from the existing architecture and making decisions based off of that is really the key to what we had to do. I can show you how this is a little bit phased, and I can pull it in and out if you'd like. But I think maybe it would be one more thing to be instructive is, again, I'm going to look from the back, and then I'm just going to go as if nothing ever happened. So that's the change, if that makes sense.
So that's existing. Yeah.
This is existing. So I would consider this a very modest addition. I mean, it's not a lot of square feet. And we are, like I said, the back facade of the house is in disrepair, and it's reached its end of its useful life. And it's affected the inside framing. I've already replaced some of the framing from the inside as repair, and I think we're trying to get ahead of the rest.
Jonathan, could you please just show us that new construction view one more time?
The new construction view, this here.
No, in terms of the linear, like blue lined view.
Oh, the 3 diagrams.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Be happy to.
Okay. Well, Jonathan, thank you. And I know we've got, does that answer your question there, Catherine? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. And I know we've got window material specs and I think there's a little bit of a narrative on the application, or no, I think, well, anyway, we've got other specs, which are just really the Pella specs. I don't know if are there paint colors and all that kind of stuff yet, or not yet?
So the paint, we're going to be looking to match existing. In fact, this house 5 years before we bought it was red, and the previous owners
really?
painted it yellow. We're not looking to, we're looking to match existing on everything. If there was going to be a change in color, we would come back to you guys, but we're not expecting that to be a part of our renovation. My life is complicated enough. Picking color is tougher than everything combined.
We love picking colors on the HTC. You can pick from one of 2 colors. I'm just, okay. So Well, thank you, Jonathan. So what I think I'd like to do is go around to through the commissioners and see if folks have any input. I am again going to jump the gun and say I'm assuming we're going to have a site visit. The next meeting is December 15th. Is that right, everybody?
Mhm. Yes.
So, Jonathan, would that work for you for an 8 a.m. site visit?
It very possibly can. I'd have to check my calendar very quickly. December 15th
2 weeks.
is Thursday. That could work. I may have to move some stuff around.
Okay, well, let's
There-
save that to the end of the meeting. It's just I think I'm gonna ask that this application be extended so we can do a site visit, but that would be the logical next step. But anyway, why don't we
Okay.
pause there for a sec? So let me go around and hear from commissioners, and I'll start. I'm just gonna go in the order on my screen. So Catherine, you're first. What do you think?
Oh dear. No, I think it's a very interesting project, and I'm sort of, to start, intrigued by Jonathan's view of looking at this kind of through the ages in terms of the history of the house. And basically, a choice has been made to focus on the 1860s or thereabouts period of the house and the mansard roof. And I think from a architecture and design perspective, that's as good a choice as any. And I do think that ultimately the way the architectural drawings have been developed create definitely just a more, I guess, harmonious and whole feeling to the structure. So from that perspective, I feel like the choices that are being made have, a solid foundation and are excellent. And I think it will ultimately create a structure that's, very harmonious, but also still in keeping with its history. It's, fascinating details that the original roof is enclosed in the existing structure. And like so many of the structures in Concord, I mean, this has gone through, obviously, a long road of changes. And, we see that in the architecture as it's shifted through time. So, to Peter's point, I think it's going to be very helpful for us to have a site visit just to understand better what the existing structure is, its siting on the plot of land, and, how we're going to be seeing this new structure from the different points of view. But from what I see on the drawings, I think it'll be a great project, and I think it's certainly looking like it's going in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you for those thoughtful comments, Catherine. Henry, you're next in my circle.
Thank you. I've always been intrigued that the Second Empire roofs have a tendency to just be continuous all the way around the building, with windows in every direction being treated in an equivalent manner. I'm not at all worried about this scheme, Jonathan, because so little is visible from Main Street. And I was concerned at one point about whether removal of the chimney and so on and so forth would make it impossible to imagine that there was ever the Dovecote house underneath all of this. But I think the truth is that that's all gone. My only question is really tiny. I may have misread your drawings, but it looks like the windows are single glazed. Is that because they're existing in the drawing?
We will be going to an insulated glass. Right now it's single glazed with the triple track on the outside. And that my intention is to get rid of all that triple track so we can establish the old window character. But yeah, you're right. There may be some details that I might have missed, but yeah, that's insulated window. It's really important for its energy use. And just good point on the chimney. and I'd like to address that. The chimney is part of the of an 1850s renovation, and then it was hit again, I think, probably in the 1940s or something. And so I felt that it also has a gas fireplace into it, and we're trying to decarbonize. And so we're trying to disconnect all that and become a better stewards of the environment. But thanks for your comment. Right on.
Thank you, Henry. Kate, you're next in my screen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so the video isn't up to snuff. But Jonathan, thank you for such a thorough presentation. I don't have any questions off the bat because I know we'll be seeing it, but also you explained a lot. It's nice to learn about the history, and I'm glad you guys are the ones who are bringing this house up to date. So I look forward to seeing how it rolls out.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Dennis.
I really have nothing to add. Seems like a fine project. You've thought this thing through thoroughly, and I look forward to a site visit. Again, we won't see most of it from the street. So I, at this point, don't have any concerns, and look forward to the site visit.
Dennis, I'm actually going to ask everybody to get on the 6:05 a.m. train from Littleton. Take it to Concord Center so you can look out the window. You have to sit on the right-hand side of the train. Can I do that?
No.
No.
Well, you can do it, but I'm not going to do it.
Thank you, Dennis. Paul, you are next.
I have no intelligent questions, but I have a couple of questions. First of all, I thought Dennis would probably raise some issue regarding the windows, but are any of the windows that are currently extant original? Probably not, right?
It's, I can't answer that with 100% certainty, but I doubt it. This house was built in somewhere in the 1760s.
Yeah. And
I don't think those windows would have lasted if these are look like they are 1900s, turn of the century, counterweighted in the shaft, windows, and they're of that technology of that era. So they've got some bells and whistles on them of the 1900s. In my experience of those type of windows, I'd be surprised if there's any original windows on the house, and all the glass doesn't look like it's of the old type.
Yeah, if you discover there is one, maybe you can let us know on the site visit. But that's really a curiosity. How much square footage is being added?
Well, I think it's
roughly order of
I think it's 850. 850.
850. Yeah.
That was actually at 700 something.
700. Yeah, it's
Like 771 or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I read it once, but
it's so on a 2,400 square foot house. It's not. We're not doubling the size of it. Not even close. We're just adding enough to make ourselves comfortable and not. Again, I'm an architect who's one of historic nature a lot of the times, and I don't need the huge house. I actually like the small, contained, little guy. I'm happy with that.
I appreciate that. But the expansion into what you described as the L is a function of needing more space or wanting more space.
Yeah, we're combining the two needs of needing more space and that back wall needing something to happen.
Okay. I have no other questions at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much for a thoughtful presentation.
Thank you, Paul. Jonathan, my only comments would be, I'm looking forward to the site visit. If there are any material, if you're matching existing, that's fine. But like the roof shingle, if that changes, if there's a material palette, even if it's just a list of things, siding's going to match existing, trim, blah, 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 blah. We need that to be delineated somehow so we can approve it or comment.
I can augment the or put an addenda to the application that includes that. Yeah, siding to match siding, trim to match trim, window to match window, and shingles to match shingles. Correct.
Okay, and then any lighting changes or new fixtures, things like that. Railing, handrails, if you're going to put handrails on the front, just granite steps, that kind of thing. I can't, forgive me, I can't remember how much is in the set. I didn't look.
There should be no work of that type as part of this project, unless we might put a railing on the back, to get to one of the doors. But I mean, it's really, the front is just to replace the windows. All the visible areas from the street is try to be as light touch as possible.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions, so why don't we open it up to public comment? Is there any public comment on the application for work at 586 Main Street? Actually, I'm not sure if anybody from the public is here. Oh, I see one person from the public, but I don't see any hands. I mean, we have our fabulous town staff members here, but they're remaining silent. Okay, so why don't I bring it back to the commission? So I'm hoping we have a motion to continue the application to the next meeting for a site visit.
I move that we continue the application for 586 Main Street until the meeting of December 15 and subject to the site visit that morning.
And we'll schedule it for 8 a.m. Jonathan, if you could let us know as soon as possible if that will work or not, because then we'd have to bump it to the following meeting.
I can make 8 a.m. work. How long does the site visit usually take?
Less than half an hour.
Okay, that'd be perfect.
Okay. Unless
if I'm not there, can I have a representative like my wife or?
Okay, unless there are donuts, and then people might linger. Okay, so we've got a motion. Could I have a second, please? Dennis, second. All right, let me take a roll call vote. I'm just going to go all the way around. Catherine.
Aye.
Aye. Henry.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
Paul. And I'm an aye as well. That was an aye from Paul. So it's unanimous. We are continuing this to the next meeting. Jonathan, thank you. We'll see you at 8 a.m. If you wanted to submit anything beforehand, materials or what have you, please go ahead and do that to the folks at the HTC headquarters. Kaiser Road.
Thank you.
141 Kaiser Road. All right. And thank you again for the presentation, Jonathan. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, folks, moving right along. That was it for our regular business. That was the one new public hearing. We have no continuances. And is there anything I'm missing, or shall we move into other business? I think we're moving into other business.
Move on into other business.
Okay, and I see we have Aaron Stevens here from the town who has been tasked to talk to us about the shared streets and spaces redesign. Welcome back, Aaron. Nice to see you again.
Thank you for having me back.
Do you want to just walk us through the presentation and tell us what's going on here?
Absolutely. Let me pull it up. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
I can.
Okay. Well, 1 out of 6 is pretty good, right? So thank you everyone for having me again. I'm just going to briefly go over what this is and then we'll jump right into it. So this is for the Shared Streets and Spaces grants, which is through the state. The town received about $200,000. This was through the grant programs cycle, which was for safer streets, specifically speed management. This was an area, Main and Walden, which was identified as being an issue for speeding. If you've ever been in the middle of the intersection when somebody's driving down the road, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking. So I think we've all experienced that. So we're looking to find some different ways to slow cars down to make it safer for pedestrians and bicycles. Let's not go to the next one. All right. So this was the original design that I showed you a few months back now. And this has the patterns intersection that we looked at previously. This was talked about with the community. We did a survey, which we got over 300 responses to, which was great. Everybody, including the HDC, you all agreed that the gray was much better than the red pavement. We looked at adding some street trees, some planters, things like that, to try to visually make the area different, to make it a little bit easier for cars that were coming through the area to see that there was something different about this area and to slow it down. So this is how it exists now. You probably recognize it. And I'm going to take you down memory lane a little bit. So this is a historic photo. And you can see in the bottom there that there are cobbles right between the sidewalk and the packed earth roadway. So we were looking at the cobbles that were previously existing at some point. You can also see the tree-lined Main Street here, which provided that canopy and that lovely view of Main Street, which we are missing a lot of the trees now, and I think that we'd love to have some of those back. And here's another view that Anne found for me today. So thank you, Anne. That gives us a really nice view looking directly at the old bank, which is now Footstock. And you can see where Main Street Cafe is now on the right there. And you can see the trees right in front. And that's kind of what we are looking at when we're doing this redesign. So this is the intersection as it exists today. And this is the idea of what we're looking to add. So in this redesign, the main things that we're looking at doing are creating these bump outs, which will make it much easier for pedestrians to see when they're trying to cross the street. They will actually be able to see if there are cars coming, and the cars will be able to see them much more easily. In order to make sure that people, when they are driving in cars, they recognize that they are coming into a different sort of area, we wanted to make some sort of a visual difference. And that's why we were looking at this sort of patterned intersection. There's two different versions. There's one that is just patterned crosswalks and one that is the entire intersection. You'll notice from the last time I was with you all, there used to be a parking spot right here. One of the things that we looked at doing after talking to several different people is taking out that parking spot to help create that visual look down down Walden at the old bank at Footstock, and possibly putting in some more of those shade trees once again. So it would really be creating more of a pedestrian area, but also helping with those aesthetics. And I am saying patterned intersection because we haven't quite decided on what the material will be. We are doing a survey with engineering, and because you might notice if you go into the intersection that the section that is near Walden is much higher than it slopes down a lot once you head towards the old bank and the Millbrook. So there is a pretty big difference. And so we're looking to see what sort of pavements we can use. And I have a couple of different options. And we're also looking at if there's any sort of pavers or anything that could be possible, although they might be cost prohibitive. And so this is our other option that does not have the pattern in the intersection, only on the crosswalks, but it is otherwise exactly the same. And this will also include doing stormwater work, looking to make sure that we are doing any of the infiltration that we can do to help clean the water ahead of time before it goes into our sewers and into our waterways. And so we're trying to make sure that we are doing this to be ADA compliant, not only because it's, what we're supposed to do, but also because it's something that's very important to us to make sure that this is an area that is accessible to everyone. So we have to make sure that everything we are doing is ADA compliance. So I'm just going to quickly go through these just to sort of show you what the bump outs will do. So the view on the left is where you currently stand if you are on the edge of the pavement. And with the bump outs is what the second photo that you see on the right. So that will be the view that you will get. So you'll be able to see much further down the street, making it safer for pedestrians and for the cars that are coming in through the intersection. I think this one does a really nice job of showing just how far you can see if you do have that extra bump out. And unfortunately, my 3D renderings are not as good as Mr. Rushmore's, but I put this together just to sort of give you a 3D image of what it could feel like to be sort of on the ground, because I know that I'm a visual learner, and I know that it helps me a lot. So I apologize for the sort of butchered downtown, but I gave it a shot. So this is with the fully patterned. And you can sort of see, this is not exact scale, but it is fairly close. So it gives you the idea of what it could actually look like. So there's just a couple different versions here. And then without the pattern and just the crosswalks. So what I wanted to also mention is there are a couple different types of stamped pavement that we could do that would be more cost effective and last longer than we've been hearing that the bricks that are very often used are crumbling and breaking very quickly after just a couple of years. And we really want to make sure that this is a project that lasts for at least the time that pavement would normally last. So we've been looking at a couple of different options. The one on the left is a stamped concrete. That is up, I thought, in Bristol, Vermont, which I thought looked really pretty good. I actually had a slight argument with my husband because he thought that it was real pavers. And I said, no, it's poured concrete and stamped. And I wrote to them and found out that it is in fact stamped concrete. But the estimate for that would be about probably 70,000. And then on the right is it is a polymer cement mix, which goes on top of the asphalt and is a very thin layer, but tends to look pretty good. These are both estimates that are from past projects that I've seen. So of course, with inflation and the prices, things might vary drastically. I also have looked at some ADA compliance pavers because of the way that they are installed. They may not work for the area as well. We're looking to see with the survey if they'd even be an option. They also might be cost prohibitive. We're looking to see what those costs are going to look like. But this is one of the polymer cement blends that I mentioned before. I did get some information that some of it was just installed in Ipswich on Market Street, which is in their historic district. And just outside of one of their historic districts in Salem, they have also installed it. So it has been used in other places. And there was a couple of photos that I saw from older projects that I actually thought were real brick until I investigated them a little bit more. So the exciting thing about at least this company is that you can choose exactly what the color is. You can choose the Pantone color. We could even have a, if we wanted to have some sort of like a very specific cobble or brick pattern, we could design it and they will imprint that exact design. So that's fairly exciting. But I will stop sharing. And yeah, I'm just trying to sort of see what you all think, see if we're on the right track. Because after I get the sort of initial, we like it, then I can start to go to the different businesses and speak to the various boards and committees so that we can start to get a second round of opinions before we can come through and get our final drawings and things like that and come back around again for actual approvals.
Gotcha. Thank you, Erin. So what you're really looking for tonight is informal feedback. Again, this isn't an application yet. Just to sort of, okay, so why don't we just, let me see what folks think. Catherine, can I pick on you again to go first?
Sure. So Erin, off the cuff, in no particular order, I would say in terms of the imprinted options and design, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like the brick looks nice, but, as you so nicely mentioned and brought up the image of the cobblestones in early days in Concord, I rather like the lean towards maybe the cobblestone design. You showed that one image from Salem, and I felt like I could see that, and I think that could possibly integrate nicely and not be too visually sort of disruptive, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. I think we'd all probably be looking towards, how can we achieve these goals of, slowing down the traffic and, more visibility from drivers and pedestrians alike, while still, maintaining as much of the character and flavor of Concord and having it be, at least in my opinion, as subtle as possible, while still achieving those goals. So that's sort of, I guess, number one thought. I did have a question in terms of the bump outs. Like, it was hard to tell from the renderings what, from a material perspective and the dimension of, our asphalt street level to, the top layer of that bump out. Like, what is that increment? Like, what are we looking at in terms of dimension? How thick is that?
So the bump outs are the same thickness as the sidewalk.
Okay.
That provides that protection, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then it has the grade down to the pavement level. So
right.
And that's at a I want to say 6% grade for ADA compliance,
okay.
but I would have to check on that again.
Yeah. So really the bigger difference, or the fundamental difference, is that sort of buffer between storefront and your street level. And then again, as you showed us in the views, what that then allows in terms of people being able to see oncoming traffic and down the road.
Absolutely. I think too that especially in front of Footstock, there's going to be almost like a plaza-like feel there, I think, which will be really nice. And also on the other corners, that expansion of pavement will make it feel, I know if I've ever been sitting there waiting, deciding which direction I want to go, I feel like I'm always in the way. And I think that having that extra bit of room will really help people feel that it is more pedestrian friendly.
Yeah.
They will feel that they're able to sort of meander in the area better than they can now, which I think will really increase the foot traffic as well in Concord, which is great.
Yeah, I really like the directive insofar as sort of, that being the aim and the goal. Again, I think I just additionally have that eye towards, how can this be achieved while still trying to keep, the historic sort of authentic character of Concord as consistent with sort of, I guess, not everything has to mimic the past exactly. That's not what I'm saying, but there is sort of a tipping point there, and kind of a balance that we need to achieve. So, again, I love the idea of incorporating more shade trees. So, that part of the project would also be, in my opinion, a very nice change and effective. And I think that's about all.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Oh, sorry. I just want to say, I totally agree. I think that it's really important to sort of marry the, the old and the new, so we can keep moving forward and keeping people, safe. But, especially in a town like Concord, you have to have a nod to the past with everything you do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Catherine. Henry, you're next in my rotation.
Thank you, Peter. Aaron, I was delighted to see that when the first issue of The Bridge came out, they centered their launch on announcement of your promotion. I thought that was excellent. I think that this is moving in a very, very healthy direction. And I was intrigued also to see it may have been one of Ann Clifford's excavations, but it was interesting to see that horses and carriages were parked in front of what is the bank at Footstock. And I'm delighted to think that there will be no red pickup trucks in front of that in the future. I think that this is coming along in a really strong way. It is pedestrian friendly. And I think that reintroducing those trees is going to remind people that Concord was once a village center. And in terms of historic reconstruction, I think it's good that we avoid overhead wires, telegraph and telephone poles and electric poles down both sides of the street, and mud.
Well, you'd have some mud. It's Concord. All right. Thank you, Henry. Kate, what do you think?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Catherine covered a lot of what I had been thinking, or what I had noticed. One question I have for my fellow commissioners is, would we allow a resident to use stamped concrete? I don't know how much weight that has either way, but I don't know if we would.
It's a good question.
So just food for thought. But the bump out, normally I'm not wild about things like that, but the public safety in the way, and they make sense. And actually what's being proposed looks, innocuous enough. So interesting project. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Dennis, what do you think? You got to unmute yourself there, Dennis.
There I am.
There you
I
go.
find my little arrow wandering around. I agree with Henry. I think this is going in the right direction. I'm not in love with bump outs, but bump outs with trees, that's much better. I think including trees is excellent. No one has mentioned real cobblestone, so I guess they're just so darn expensive they're not even a consideration. Is that true?
They're not ADA accessible either.
Yeah, too much unevenness.
Too much unevenness on them?
Yeah.
The other question has to do with trying to follow the elevation as it changed. I've seen very successful intersections like this where they're actually elevated slightly, not a lot, but elevated slightly, so that you're coming into a place that's different. And the feel of the bumpiness of cobblestones in most of these places makes a difference. Would there be any way of combining cobblestones with a matching imprinted surface that would allow the handicapped accessibility? Let's say on the walkways going around, so it matched the cobblestones. I just think I agree that an all imprinted pattern it's not going to last. It's going to fade. And it looks fake, but if that's the way to go, I'd go along with it, but it would not be my first choice. Getting back to my original comment, I think you're going in the right direction. I think this is a good thing to do. Now, if you could only keep people from jumping out behind cars when they want to cross the crosswalks, I'd be perfectly happy.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, that's the worst thing.
In terms of the stamped pavement wearing away. So I was also very concerned about that. I have been grilling everybody that I've been talking to. The people that I've been talking to up in Bristol, Vermont, that have the stamped pavement that was on that, the one that I said that my husband thought was real pavers. I talked to them and they said that it's up in mid Vermont. They get the same amount of cold and snow as we do, if not more. They said that it has lasted for, I think they said they've had it for 11 years now. And it has lasted through plowing, through salts, storms, all kinds of stuff. And it hasn't worn away yet. They have a couple of different areas. I believe they said that it is true that what is on the roadways has worn away more than that's on the sidewalks, but it still looks really pretty good considering how much traffic goes over it. That is one of the concerns that we have with using different materials is we need something that can really have a lot of traffic and weight on it, because we do have so many trucks come through, as well as just everyday vehicles. One of the other options that I mentioned, the Endura blend, I think that's what it's called. It holds up really well. From what I've heard, they showed me some photos from New Jersey that they've had it for, I think, 15 years, and it still is holding its pattern. It hasn't worn away yet, which I was very impressed by. I think they thought that I was skeptical because they offered to send me the information of the Jersey City engineers, so I could get their opinions as well. So I'm still doing some research, but there's definitely some different options there. We hadn't thought about putting cobbles in the middle and stamped on the crosswalks. I don't know if that'd be cost prohibitive, but we can certainly look at it. I know one of the concerns was that with individual cobbles, with the expansion and contraction of the pavement in the summer and the winter, they tend to pop out, brick sand cobbles. So it can be very difficult to maintain long term, but definitely something we can look at. And when you mentioned the raised intersection, did you mean where they actually raise the intersection up a few inches?
Well, yeah, and a few inches. It isn't a lot, and it's sort of a giant speed bump.
Yes.
And
Raised table,
you're in a different texture, you're in a different height, so you're in a feeling that you're in a place you have to slow down. And
yes. Yeah, so we did look at that. We priced it out, but because of the height change in the intersection from essentially where Walden meets Main, sloping down towards the Millbrook, down towards the Old Bank and Footstock, it's if you raise it up a couple inches by Footstock, it would be level with where it is right now towards Walden. You would not notice the difference. And so in order for us to make that enough of a difference all the way across, it would be a little bit unsightly. We think we're exploring it just in case, but we don't think it's going to really work. So we're planning on keeping it at grade where it is right now.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Thank you, Dennis. Paul, what do you think?
All good comments from our colleagues, and I won't repeat them, but I am interested in the safety issue. Is there a problem? I mean, are we solving a safety problem here, or is this just an expectancy? Since we're doing something, we might as well focus in part on bump outs. I mean, I guess where I'm coming from is, in an ideal world, I'm not a fan of bump outs. I think they're in general disproportionate to the areas around them, often ugly, which isn't to say that trees wouldn't help ameliorate that, but why are we bumping out, and how much are we bumping?
Sure. So the reason why we are bumping out is to create those sight lines to be much clearer for people. We have had, so when we did our survey and asked what people wanted to see in this area, one of the main comments that we received was people saying that they did not feel safe because they stepped out and they had to step into the street in order to see if there were cars coming. So they were already partially in the crosswalk when they could even see if they were able to cross. Especially parents with strollers or with small children felt especially unsafe in the intersection. We had many people say that they had what we call near miss situations where there wasn't an accident, but they felt like if they had been a second earlier, it could have been, or a second later, it could have been an accident situation, or if they hadn't been paying as much attention. So we want to make sure that we can prevent these things before they do happen. We do have a lot of speed data from the area that indicated that people were typically going much faster than we'd be comfortable with so many people jetting out into the street, as was mentioned, possibly from behind cars, not at crosswalks at all. But we think that if we create safe spaces for people to be coming out into the crosswalk, then hopefully they'll be using those more than trying to cross at other intersections.
Would that safe space as likely follow from raising, as Dennis was suggesting, some slight raising of the grade? I hear your point that if you raise by a small amount, it's essentially even with in front of foot stops. But is that an alternative solution that avoids bump outs?
I don't think it would do the same, because I think that also what the bump outs do is they visually squeeze the intersection. So it makes people, it gives them that clue that there's something different about this area. They have to slow down. Well, if we raise the intersection, it would on the side where there is foot stock, it would give that visual cue. However, it wouldn't do anything for the side that is closer to Walden. It would be the same height that it is right now. So it would possibly fix part of the intersection, but people also would not be able to see and step out into the intersection and be safe behind those bump outs when they are looking still. We'd have the same issue.
Presumably Public Works is weighing in on the snowplow issue and what's going to work as a surface, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm working very closely with our engineering partners and with the director of Public Works. Our engineering firm that we're working with has worked with us on, I believe, on the Commonwealth Ave project. So we're trying to make sure we cover all of our bases.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Paul. Well, Aaron, I guess my only final comments are, I think previously you were looking at a painted only scheme, correct? Or there were a couple of schemes where it was like striped or painted. Is that just not considered anymore? Only because it would avoid it would still be a surface to maintain, but it would avoid the stamped patterning issue. Let's say the walkways were painted a different color or a different color asphalt or something. Is that not worth pursuing?
So I think what you're talking about is we were talking before about having a colored stamped pavement. So we were talking
it was still stamped.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess there would be an option for it to just be a color, but I think that it would look much, I don't know that I want to say cheesy.
Yeah,
it's not quite the right word.
Well, if I may, what was so successful about the rotary redesign, and I think in that case, I think one of the lanes is entirely colored yellow or something, but that was such, in my opinion, a successful traffic calming design that I'm all for here for sure. A similar strategy. So that was just one question. The other question was the only bump out that really concerns me is actually the one in front of the Graham, the old toy shop. Turning left from Walden Street is going to become much more difficult because now you've got to go way out into the intersection, and I'm assuming the traffic study will take that into consideration. And that's the only thing I'm worried about, is that now it actually makes it more difficult for the vehicular traffic to make a left turn onto Main Street. I don't know. And it's a trade-off, right? You're making it safer for pedestrians, but I think one of the reasons people, and again, I'll speak for myself, one of the reasons I probably go too fast through the intersection is out of frustration, because you wait, then you finally get there and you want to get across as quickly as you can. So I just fear that would be maybe an unintended consequence, people coming off Walden trying to get onto Main Street. But I agree. Otherwise, I think this is a good idea. And the only other thing, is this area being studied because the grant specified it? Or, I've always thought for instance, the crossing from Concord Academy to the library is incredibly dangerous. Is that up for redesign in the future?
It could be. So we submitted a couple of different projects for this grant, and this was the one that was chosen by the state.
Gotcha.
That could be a project that we submit in the future. There are many projects, I'm sure, as you drive and walk around town, you go, I wish we could redesign this. Well, we do too. So
Yes.
we're hopeful that in the future we'll be making a lot of really great design choices and changes. So that left onto Main that you're talking about from Walden, that should not change at all. So the bump outs only go as far as the parking spots do. So they only go just that far. The shoulder won't change it all, I don't think.
Okay.
I believe that on Main or on Walden going right, we are pulling in the shoulder a little bit because it is extra wide, but we can't actually change the radius there too much because we need trucks to be able to take that turn still. So we're being very careful to make sure that everyone can still make their turns. And the only other thing that will change is that if you've ever noticed, there are no lines to help guide you through the intersection if you're going
Right. Correct.
with Walden on your right-hand side. So we're looking to do a dashed line down the middle to help guide people. Because especially when we did a site visit, we noticed that many cars that weren't local necessarily were sort of heading straight into that left turn only that's on Main, and then having to veer over into the lane to continue on going straight. So to help guide people in that direction, we're also putting a dotted line in there.
Those are all the New Hampshire drivers. Live free or die, man. All right. Well, Aaron, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for coming before us. It's great to be a part of this. So let us know when you want additional feedback. I think more of our members, a few of us are missing tonight, so it's always good to have a mix of folks here. So anything else we can say this evening? We're not going to take a vote on anything, correct? You don't ask. Okay.
No, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this is really helpful. My next step, I guess. Yeah, is to go and to work with the businesses and just make sure that they all feel that this is a good solution and they all like the design as well before I start making the rounds to the other boards and committees, and then coming back to you all for actual approval, and then going to the Natural Resources Commission and so on and so forth. So
And a pay raise. Okay, well, good luck. Good luck with all those business owners. All right. And have a good holiday, Aaron, and we'll see you in the new year, probably.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. You too. All right, folks. Thank you for all your input there. And our last piece of business is to approve the minutes from October 20th, which I read through, and excellent minutes as always. So I have no comments. Did anyone have any feedback on the minutes?
No.
Okay, then I would suggest we have a motion to approve those minutes, which I can't make.
I move that we approve the minutes of October 20 as written.
Somebody's got to second it.
I'll second.
Catherine, second. All right, quick roll call vote. Catherine.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. And thank you. Excellent minutes. All right, so that's it. We have a meeting coming up on the 15th. I see it's all Monument Street. There are 3 projects on Monument Street and 1 on Barrett's Mill Road. Assuming, and then we'll have that site visit in the morning at 586 Main Street. So, and that will be my last meeting.
Oh,
Is
Peter.
Is that right? Well,
Oh, no.
That'll be it.
I don't like that.
That's all right.
I'll meet you at Littleton.
And we'll take the train at the 6:05 a.m. I don't think I think I have have I rode that route? I don't even remember. Maybe. All right, folks. Well, listen, thank you all. Nice to see you all.
We'll
All
see
right,
you.
thanks,
Thank
Pete.
you. Thank you, Peter.
Enjoy the nice cold weather, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Thanks, Peter. Good night, guys.
Thank you. Night.
Thank
Everybody.
you, Ann.